Radio 1, Berlin.
You're listening to Radio 1, broadcasting live this evening with our guest, once again, Dmytro Fedorenko. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for coming again. It's 13th of March 2022. And Renus, of course, in the studio here at Radio 1, Berlin, Central, Kreuzberg.
Sorry to interrupt right from the start. We know that this is the radio show after the last one. But some listeners might be there for the first time.
Indeed.
The relationship of Radio 1 and Dmytro goes back to the Maidan uprising 2013-2014, when we got through Skype a weekly report of what was going on. Ever since then, I have been interested in the subject in so far that I understand what the experts are talking about. Now that Russia invading Ukraine again, we pick up this old habit of having talks with each other about the situation, with the one exception that Dmytro now lives in Berlin and is in a way very much involved on, say, a secondary level with the war in Ukraine, if you might call the people who are involved on a first level, the people who are actually standing there with ammunition and tanks and so on. So that's what we. That's a background that you that might help a little bit in understanding what the following conversations will be about. Now back to the demo, the second one that was the second big one that was in Berlin today. Adrian.
It started off at Alexanderplatz.
Mm-hmm. I think this one was Alexanderplatz. It was organized by Greenpeace, I think.
Right.
And then it moved to Brandenburger Tor.
Yeah, we walked along through Potsdamer Platz and then turned right, and then into Brandenburger Tor. Yeah, and a beautiful sunny day. Little chilly wind, but yeah, beautiful blue skies, springtime.
Oh, so you didn't go unter the Linde?
No.
That avoided the encounter in front of the Russian embassy. So.
But you were saying, Dmytro, that you were in front of the Russian embassy today.
Yeah, usually we go with friends directly to Unter den Linden and to Brandenburg, the same as today, through Russian embassy. And today what was new, there was a small stage which it was called, I think, Russians Against War. And they had flags which I never saw before. It was white, blue, white, which I think it's apparently flag of Novgorod. But I heard that there's some sort of free movement, or I don't know. So this was I need to read about it also for me tonight, because this I never saw this before. And they had small stage. They would play some songs there, and somehow tried to blend in, so to say. But also was smart enough that they didn't bring Russian flags.
For our listener, we are talking about two different demonstrations now. One that followed the route from Alexanderplatz to Potsdamer Platz, Leipziger Straße, which is a parallel street to Unter der Linde, which goes from the palace to the Brandenburger Tor.
Okay.
So that's how these people were demonstrating at the same time. And Adrian was with the one that didn't pass the Russian embassy, and Dmytro, yours was organized by?
Vice. It's an organization, so Ukrainians made Vice, basically in Ukrainian it means gathering. And it's they immediately organized together with, I think, Peletsky Institute, which is in front of Brandenburger Tor, in front of the U.S. Embassy, next to Starbucks. In the corner, they have this office, and basically it's a headquarter of, I would say, main headquarter of Ukrainian resistance.
Okay, so you've got all the footnotes now, and back to the live report of what's happening in front of the Russian embassy with the Novgorod flags and the Siberian flags. Yeah.
So this what we've noticed when we arrived there, and then we were walking around and also not just standing there, because as I told you before, before we started to talk about it, that also for us these demos are not only to come to be present at a demo, but it's also a meeting point of activists who well, let's say we meet new people, we meet people who we know, and we exchange information of lists what is needed now in Ukraine, who is buying what, who is delivering what goods, and we exchange this information. Then we also talk about gathering money. So it's really already like first-hand movement.
Can you talk a little bit more about how this organization, because I think it's not an organization, but it's becoming an organization because people work together.
Well, okay, it's like this. Organization, if you talk about the Switcha, I would call it organization now, because
but the others.
The others, this is Ukrainian style. This kind of we would say usually that Ukraine turns on Maidan mode, which means that everybody helps everybody. So there's no organization per se. There's no office. It just everybody knows who can do what. And
like a giant flea market with other goods.
Yes.
Yeah,
and there are Facebook groups. It's really horizontal organizing, like true anarchy way, when everybody knows who can do what. Let's say if somebody can organize buses to the border, then this person is doing this job. And then he says, okay, I have like 10 buses. And then somebody says, we have 2,000 quadricopters, we need buses. And then people connect immediately. And this several Facebook groups which exchange information. It's like super in the moment. It's really, really fast. And these updates of usually very often I don't know who is posting lists, but then we don't ask. We just see some person is saying, okay, I have this list of medicals. I need and I have bus leaving tomorrow. And I need this amount of these medicines, and then in the next morning they have more than they need. And just people come and bring it. Or if somebody don't know where to buy it, then says, okay, I can buy it, but I need money. And then this person receives several thousand euros like within moments, and then this person goes and buys it. And very often we don't know each other. I know some people know some people. It's really it's total trust, and it's really moves. That's why it moves really fast.
How does this start to visualize in Berlin what the people are doing? Because of course there are refugees and refugees are arriving. How does the organization or these organized people help them? In what way?
For instance, when refugees started to arrive at Hauptbahnhof, then many of my friends, they just went as volunteers. Those, for instance, those who live in Berlin and they understand language, and they doing this. They explain people who come completely lost, who just come from the train, ask what should I do now. Yeah, really, and this like thousands of people. So mother comes with 3 children and says, I don't speak German, I don't speak English, and then what should I do now? I'm here now. And then people just standing there in this yellow vests, and then it's also somebody is just standing and meet people. Somebody knows more a little bit about the organization. Somebody also we saw.
Have you been at the Hauptbahnhof?
Not yet.
Because today I went down there with Jason Oni. We made some radio, and first we were at the demo, like you say, but then we almost accidentally ended up at Hauptbahnhof because we went the wrong way, and spent time there. And yeah, it's kind of shocking and disturbing to see mothers with their children and little dogs, for example, holding what they have for their life, their life possessions or whatever they could get, all arriving. So many people. Like you said, there's people there helping them with these day glow vests on and everything, and then outside there is a big humanitarian tent, I guess, where people are have food, etc. Apparently it's not big enough from what I've heard, and but
they also sleep there, or
there were people looking very lost, and I don't know, because you can't go inside the tent until
Some probably have to sleep also at the beginning sometimes, but also as my friend who went there already, they said that quite a lot of locals, like Germans, coming and just saying, okay, I have room for 2 people.
We heard
and
this,
they just take people, and it's really a lot. It's really so Berlin helps full on, and this is also really amazing. So it's constantly, it's not just one accidentally. It's really a lot of people coming to Hauptbahnhof and just really accepting refugees. And then also kind of getting involved to explain what to do then.
Literally, I saw this happening.
Yeah.
People going up to small families and saying, what can I do to help? And it was incredible, exchanging their numbers and this is. I think the shocking thing is as well is that these are ordinary people. You wouldn't,
Just yesterday, I met 3 girls. 2 of them I knew since ages. They came, so they're my friends from Kiev, and they came with their small children. And so I didn't even know that they were coming, because many just arriving, we don't know about everyone. And I met them by accident in the city. And they were more lucky, so because somebody offered them, these three girls and I think 4 kids, just apartment in the center for 1 month for free. So they can somehow settle down and come down, and they have some food. So, and then we spent. So when we met, we were explaining them where to go, because we have all this information, and we also spread this. Also, is kind of a job. The Sozialamt, how to register, which benefits you can have. What is the difference if you register as refugee or not? Because some people don't want to do it. Some people come and they are, let's say, they have money saved, and they say, okay, I don't want to take someone's place. I can buy myself rent for 1 month, and this also goes like this. So basically, it's still I didn't manage to get to Hauptbahnhof because I was busy with other stuff like this. Mostly sending the information, because it's updating every day. And now I have this big lists of all the websites, how to register online, where to go, and how much money they can get, and all these things.
Is there anything you can say now? Any of the links that you can?
It's all in emails now. It's all on computer, because it's to be honest, the amount of information which we have to process every day, it's somehow already abnormous. And then we really start to have these folders on computers with documents, with links, these different organizations, or what to do. And also, for instance, Berlin is already super full. And I think by the law, Berlin can take only 2.5%.
So how many people? How many
this
people
I don't know. This I was not checking. It's tens of thousands probably.
Yeah.
And now those people who register as refugees, as much as I know, some of them were already distributed to other cities, which somehow I think Berlin is the main hub now still. Yeah.
Anyway, those links. This series now they are on our website, and it's Radio on Ukraine, so that's very easy to find. And this one is part 2, or the second session, or whatever. And in that one, I will.
We can put the links on the website.
We will put the links.
No, this I will send later on, and then you can update it. Of course, yes. Yeah. This all information is collected, and also I must say that. From what I know, there are some new laws which Senate must implement, or maybe they did already. And what is amazing, they start to give money before the law. So it's kind of they're already working up front the situation, which is also super amazing.
Because it's happening very fast.
Yes, and this is also, so people go to Sozialamt and they receive like, I don't know, a few $100, few €100 for the first time, and then they say, but there's no law how to regulate it. But say, okay, it's coming, but we already help.
Wow.
Yes, this is really, really. So let's say, yes, it's really stressful. A lot of people are completely lost when they arrive at Hauptbahnhof. But overall situation, I would say it's more positive than negative, because everybody helps, and then naturally people will be stressed. Naturally, it will be more people than help is coming. But I think it's much better than you could think. Yes, as I would say, as previous stories with refugees and some not nice things. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, normally in the world of politics, you never hear about what people are doing, and it doesn't arrive in the news. But now it's so massive that suddenly this force, what a population can be, for me, I think it's very. I know only the Dutch word.
Go on, say it.
Imponerend.
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 And what is that? It's a loose
Imponerend.
translation.
A loose translation would be that it's not overwhelming but impressive. Impressive. Yeah.
But Dmytro, we did a show last Sunday, which was exactly a week ago.
No, we did it on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, sorry.
Wednesday.
Where am I now? Oh, yes, because
Yes,
it was Frauentag. It was
Yes.
Women's Day
Yes,
on
that's
the
right.
8th of March, wasn't
Yes.
it? What's changed since then?
Yeah, and how's your family? And how are your friends?
Since that
Family
time,
live outside Kiev. Yeah.
yeah, but I still cannot convince them to move. And this is also my father is so stubborn, and he's holding his ground. And then basically, it's everything around every village is don't exist anymore. So this city of Irpin, Bucha, it just completely destroyed, and it took days to evacuate people. But this small village, there are few small villages who are luckily not a little bit, like, I don't know, 2-3 kilometers outside of the front line, and yeah, they still stay there. But also, hopefully, some of our friends who are also in the nearby areas, they were also waiting, but finally they would be able to send their families, like wives and girlfriends and children, already to the west and to the border, and somebody going to Slovakia, to Poland, and so on.
But the men, as far as I understand, can't leave
No.
at the moment? No.
No.
So they have to stay and...
Yes, every man from 18 to 65 must stay, and must it's global drafts, complete mobilization. And every man, so already those of my friends who joined territorial defense, they are kind of assigned to self-defense, and some of my friends, they already received this, I don't know how to say this, not this
call up, or
well, when they should arrive to the real army. So it's
okay,
and it's coming, and so artists are coming there. So many of my friends already joined either territorial defense or army.
But they haven't come from Berlin or any other country and gone. They're already in Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So also many men who, for instance, who had military experience in the past. I know about at least 80,000 came back to Ukraine who were working in Poland, in Italy, in Portugal, and those who know how to hold arms. And they came to Ukraine. I think since 2 weeks, almost 250, 250,000 men came back to Ukraine to join army or territorial defense. Yes.
How do you feel about that then?
Though this is really good that those who can do it, they are coming. It's what didn't change. It's still only men who had experience in military, they are accepted. Which is also smart, because at least now more volunteers than arms. So there are not enough Kalashnikov, so to say, for everyone. But this is there's no problem with people who don't want to join defense.
Okay, so I understand. Is there any way of preseeing the events that have happened? I mean, everything's happening so fast. Today I heard that the mayor of one of the towns had been...
already three mayors of 3 towns were kidnapped.
Oh, okay.
And one of local districts were kidnapped. They're trying to create in Kherson another so-called People Republic. But people went and protest. So basically Kherson is partly occupied, and people go with bare arms and just protesting in front of military Russians. They with flags that they don't want to have any People's Republic and stuff.
Where is Kherson?
It's south. It's close to Crimea.
Okay.
And 25 kilometers off the Polish border.
And today Lviv was attacked,
which is very close to the Polish.
Yes, it's quite
border,
close to the Polish border, and it's one of the most western cities, like the biggest city on east of Ukraine. And today Russians sent 30 missiles on the west, yes, And today Russians sent 30 missiles, and they destroyed one not airports. I would know how to say this training ground for airplanes next to Lviv. 30 people were killed, and more than almost 200 were injured, and a lot of destruction also. So now western part of Ukraine is being bombed, the same as any other place. So I would say in this case situation got worse. The only thing they didn't take any new city. So kind of they try to, I don't know English terminology, when tanks can go offense and they just put themselves in the ground. So they're kind of more hidden. So
Right.
they're trying to hold the positions. That's what we heard recently from our army. But it's also stupid because Ukraine, we have this Turkish Bayraktar, these amazing drones which fly really high and they're invisible, and they so when the tanks is not moving, it's much easier to destroy it.
I mean, just before we play the first track, I heard that there were these drones that you could that were what's the word? They've been changed in some kind of way that they can hold Molotov cocktails, so they can drop them. So some
About
kind of
Molotovs, I didn't hear, but
from drones.
yeah, but some activists they opened up the hidden things that so there was development of drones in Dnipro before the war, and they were not telling it to anyone, also for the reasons of so Russians couldn't know it, and they were getting ready. So there are also some Ukrainian drones which can throw some explosives to arms vehicles. Yes,
It's definitely something that developed there, but I can see it later on in Berlin, where people have their beers delivered by drones. So
well, I'm sure if it's
not dropped though.
If it's possible, Ukrainians would definitely already implement it. This is I don't have any doubts about it. So because a lot of people really working 24/7. IT guys, they're DDoSing websites of Russians, and then engineers creating all these miracle things with drones. So yeah, I would be not surprised to see some drones dropping Molotov cocktails.
The technology.
Yeah.
So you have a number of recordings with you. I can see. We're even going to go for some CDs this time. Can you say what it is?
These drones have to fly fast then, because they've got this piece of cloth that's burning.
Yes.
No, I can tell you later. There you can do Molotov cocktails without burning clothes.
Oh, okay.
So
Instructions after this piece of music.
Yes. What are we playing here then? So you just handed me Zavaloika.
Zavoloka.
Yeah.
So she made in 2014 during Maidan. We were going and recording streets when people playing whatever drums and Molotovs throwing and rocks, and she made a track. So this release is called Volia, which in Ukrainian means freedom, and this track number 3 on the CD, Slavlenya, it's a track made from the sounds when on 19th of January, when the first real clashes started, and when the police cars, we saw dozens of police cars burning. So this track number 3 on this EP is made from the sound of the revolting streets.
And it was on your label Kvitnu.
Yes.
Okay, classic. Here we go. You're listening to Radio 1 Berlin with our guest this evening, Dmytro Fedorenko, and that was Zavaloika.
Zavoloka.
Can you tell me something about this track?
So in January 2014, when Real Fire started with Revolution, people also without any special arrangement, people just started to use different metal elements and to hit other metal elements on the street. So it was sort of live drumming, like hundreds of people were constantly hammering metal or over rocks. And
kind of Neubauten style.
Yes. And then it took like this non-stop for several weeks. And when police was attacking, people would start to play louder and faster. So it was also like a signal of emergency. And if when we would need to go to sleep to have some rest at home, and we would not turn off the stream from the streets, because as long as you can hear this drumming, everything is fine in the square.
You know, the heartbeat is still going.
Yes. And then we just went with the local. We went with our field recorders and with Zooms, and we recorded video and this drum sounds. Then she made this track with using these drum sounds, and then I made visuals for this track with actually people on the streets like hammering this.
So this track was made up of those field recordings from 2014 in Kiev.
Exactly.
Amazing. And Renus, you were just saying that some...
Maybe everyone, a lot of people do this. And go.
Renus has brought his glasses this time.
And go, so that I can read actually what I'm saying. And I go through a lot of social media, and then I saw one of the articles that was so clear and also so beautiful in its clarity, or in its analysis, that it almost like cleaned my brain. And it's written by Hu Wei, and he is the vice chairman of the, I'm reading this now, he is the vice chairman of the Public Policy Research Center of the Councillor's Office of the State Council, chairman of Shanghai Public Policy Research Association, chairman of Academic Committee of the Chahar Institute, a professor and a doctoral supervisor. So he's someone.
In China.
So, which means if he's a professor and he comes to this kind of thinking and analysis, he must not be the only one. So that might be that on other higher levels, the same conclusions are drawn. And maybe it's interesting for the discussion that we have that that we just go through it.
Go ahead.
Yes. And he's got 3 different chapters, and the first chapter is predicting the future of the Russo-Ukrainian war. The first point he says, and we are now here. I go halfway because we know the beginning, the Blitzkrieg, which didn't succeed. Launching a nuclear war would put Russia on the opposite side of the whole world and is therefore unwinnable. The situations both at home and abroad are also increasingly unfavorable. Even if the Russian army were to occupy Ukraine's capital Kiev and set up a puppet government at high cost, this would not mean final victory. At this point, Putin's best option is to end the war decently through peace talks, which requires Ukraine to make substantial concessions. However, what is not attainable on the battlefield is also difficult to obtain at the negotiation table. In any case, this military action constitutes an irreversible mistake. You want to comment on that?
No, let's continue.
Okay.
However, wait, no, actually, I just want to say, because we saw it when we were listening to music, 1 week after the beginning of war, all analysts in Ukraine and also some propagandists, like deep state in Russia propaganda, after the first week, they concluded that war is lost by Russia, one way or another. So Blitzkrieg didn't happen. And even if the miracle happens and they would occupy all Ukraine, they have no resources simply to hold the ground, because it's completely impossible now to do. and they didn't expect that everybody basically who is in Ukraine will be fighting. So yes, in this case, I really agree on this.
Okay, step 2 towards filling your hearts with hope. The conflict may escalate further, and the West's eventual involvement in the war cannot be ruled out. While the escalation of the war would be costly, there's a high probability that Putin will not give up easily given his character and power. The Russo-Ukrainian war may escalate beyond the scope and region of Ukraine and may even include the possibility of a nuclear strike. Once this happens, the US and Europe cannot stay aloof from the conflict, thus triggering a world war or even a nuclear war. The result would be a catastrophe for humanity and a showdown between the United States and Russia. This final confrontation, given that Russia's military power is no match for NATO's, would be even worse for Putin. So basically he's saying from...
Also worse for us all if it becomes a nuclear sort of... I don't think...
Don't mess with nukes because that would definitely be the end of you. I think there's almost nothing to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want...
No, just one thing that maybe we talked about it on Wednesday, that what happened, it's big myth of a super strong, amazingly powerful Russian army is gone. Because what we see soldiers who look like homeless people. We see super old technology, military vehicles who arrived in Ukraine. When our soldiers look in this condition the Russian army is, now many people start to ask, is it possible that their nukes are in super amazing condition when the whole other army is completely demoralized and basically underdeveloped and far from what was declared? So I guess it's also correct.
3. Even if Russia manages to seize Ukraine in a desperate gamble, it is still a political hot potato. Russia would thereafter carry a heavy burden and become overwhelmed. Under such circumstances, no matter whether Volodymyr Zelensky is alive or not, Ukraine will most likely set up a government in exile to confront Russia in the long term. Russia will be subject both to Western sanctions and rebellion within the territory of Ukraine. The battle lines will be drawn very long. The domestic economy will be unsustainable and will eventually be dragged down. This period will not exceed a few years.
Yes.
How long has it been since the invasion began?
I think it's 17 days already.
17 days,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it's even 18.
Today it's 18th,
Yeah.
yes.
A lot seems to have happened in a very, very short time.
Yes.
And you were just talking about, what you were reading, it's talking about years.
This
was a possibility that if Russia
Yes.
occupies Ukraine, then it would take years. I think years for Russia to fall down.
It's going much faster, everything together. Also, the effect of sanctions every day, it's so strong in Russia, what we see, what is happening there. And so far, of reading or people who understand in war in Ukraine, none of them even says about 1 year to continue this. So there's some talks in the worst case that this war theoretically can be frozen again, which again mostly people say it's highly unlikely that it can be happening. But 2 years, on my side, I never read any article who would even say that 1 year is still possible. But
But he's not saying this, huh?
yeah, that's what I'm. This kind of confirming. That's.
He just says when the occupation is there, it might not exceed a few years.
Can you possibly repeat where this comes from, Renus, for those who have just joined us?
This is from Huawei, and he's a professor and involved in a lot of high-profile organizations.
Chinese professor.
A Chinese professor. So, and what I was stating in the beginning, that if on such a top intellectual level someone is thinking like this, he cannot possibly be the only one. So this is almost a manual to give to diplomats to study and what to use when they start negotiations. But we're coming to that because this is the first chapter, predicting the future of the Russo-Ukrainian war, and now is the fourth and last point. The political situation in Russia may change or be disintegrated at the hands of the West. After Putin's blitzkrieg failed, the hope of Russia's victory is slim, and Western sanctions have reached an unprecedented degree. As people's livelihoods are severely affected, and as anti-war and anti-Putin forces gather, the possibility of a political mutiny in Russia cannot be ruled out. With Russia's economy on the verge of collapse, it would be difficult for Putin to prop up the perilous situation even without the loss of the Russo-Ukrainian war. If Putin were to be ousted from power due to civil strife, coup d'état or another reason, Russia would be even less likely to confront the West. It would surely succumb to the West or even be further dismembered, and Russia's status as a great power would come to an end. But here the main thing that he says is the anti-war and anti-Putin forces that would gather and would cause a possible political mutiny. Can you comment on this, or is there anything that you want to say?
On anti-war, this is really, we are super skeptical. Ukrainians are extremely skeptical. So we want something to appear, but I have no idea where it could come from. Because, yes, mothers maybe they will start to ask questions about the killed sons and husbands, but then it's too small force. Some people would say that somebody close to Putin will kill him or something like this, or give him up and so on. But this
like
is
Caesar.
Yes, something. But I have no idea how it will end. The thing is, Putin, he can also stay with sanctions for years and years. This is also a possibility.
But you said that in the first meeting that we had, and we can repeat it here, that Russia is not a country, it's an empire.
It's an empire, yes.
And the mutiny and the anti-Putin sources, they could also be in those separate countries, which are now part of Russia.
Hope is small, but there's a hope, yes. At least Caucasus region, we really looking forward for them to start doing something. Chechnya and Dagestan.
But the things bordering with China and India and that's
but
as far away from me as it is from you.
You saw already that Japan started to talk about Kuril Islands to bring back the question. So who knows? Maybe also be another force from outside which will shake the situation. We cannot say who from inside of the Russia. I have no idea who could start it. Somebody should start it. At least this flag which I saw today, which already is something new.
Yeah, and there's the Siberia movement that they want independency. What we do, I go on because there's two little chapters to follow.
I think let's go for another CD.
Okay, and then we come back to you with the analysis of the impact of Russo-Ukrainian war on international landscape, because this thing is really becoming interesting.
Okay, so you're listening to Radio 1 Berlin, and this is another release from the legendary Kvitnu label of your label, Dmytro, Muslim Gauze.
Yes, this is 11 Minarets, so let's listen to some classical music. Track number 1.
Jones, aka Muslim Gauze, 11 Minarets, track 1 on the label Kvitnu, your label, Dmytro. I want to talk about Muslim Gauze, but you guys are engaged in a conversation.
Let's continue with the
when
article.
no one could hear it.
Let's continue with this article.
Okay. Repeat, Hu Wei, leading intellectual in China, and this was an article he read with a prediction of what could happen after the Russo-Ukrainian war. Now, as part 2, analysis of the impact of Russo-Ukrainian war on international landscape. Point 1, the United States would regain leadership in the Western world, and the West would become more united. At present, public opinion believes that the Ukrainian war signifies a complete collapse of US hegemony.
Whatever that means.
But the war would in fact bring France and Germany, both of which wanted to break away from the US, back into the NATO defense framework, destroying Europe's dream to achieve independent diplomacy and self-defense. Germany would greatly increase its military budget. Switzerland, Sweden and other countries would abandon their neutrality. With Nord Stream 2 put on hold indefinitely, Europe's reliance on US natural gas will inevitably increase. The US and Europe would form a closer community of shared future, and American leadership in the Western world will rebound. Well, this almost sounds like a prediction that you read in 20 years' time and say, whoa, in 2022 they thought like this, because there's a lot of ifs and maybes. But then again, I don't know if I understand Chinese way of logic, but this to me sounds like this is the development, and you can't come to a different logical conclusion than this and this and this, what he's just stated. Because why should there be another way? As France and Germany staying away from the US, and France and Germany continue to take gas from Russia. These are all scenarios which are a little bit from impossible to think of right now. So he makes this very clear vision of what is going to happen. West more united, Europe more united with US, and thus a shared future and a closer community.
So is this all part of Putin's plan, do you think? It brings everyone together?
Then it will be the most beautiful conspiracy ever created on the planet.
But for people, you know, women, children dying.
Then it would be the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I think the more, let's say, this Akama blade principles, what seems the more probable, it's the truth. So he just pushed too many buttons. And as we talked, I think last week, that he just thought that it would be, he would get away with it again, and apparently it was too much for anyone.
Yeah, and people cheering from welcome, finally.
Yeah.
They were shooting us because we were speaking Russian. Okay, point 2. The Iron Curtain would fall again, not only from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, but also to the final confrontation between the Western-dominated camp and its competitors. The West will draw the line between democracies and authoritarian states, defining the divide with Russia as a struggle between democracy and dictatorship. The new Iron Curtain will no longer be drawn between the two camps of socialism and capitalism, nor will it be confined to the Cold War. It will be a life and death battle between those for and against Western democracy. The unity of the Western world under the Iron Curtain will have a siphon effect on other countries. The US. Indo-Pacific strategy will be consolidated, and other countries like Japan will stick even closer to the US, which will form an unprecedentedly broad democratic united front.
Again, this word united, bringing people together.
Yeah. You want to comment, Sam?
I don't know. Yeah, this sounds probable.
This sounds so nice, like achieve that's cooking and putting the ingredients, because he's pushing to a conclusion of which the Chinese government and the people over there should say from, where do we want to stay? Because we've got this force that's growing very, very, very big and very strong. And we've got this man waging a war who's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Should we support him? Or should we try to get in a conversation with this new power that's arising on the horizon? Number 3. So the power of the West will grow significantly. NATO will continue to expand, and US influence in the non-Western world will increase. After the Russo-Ukrainian War, no matter how Russia achieves its political transformation, it will greatly weaken the anti-Western forces in the world. The scene after the 1991 Soviet and Eastern upheavals may repeat itself. Theories on the end of ideology may reappear. The resurgence of the third wave of democratization will lose momentum, and more third world countries will embrace the West. The West will possess more hegemony, both in terms of military power and in terms of values and institutions. Its hard power and soft power will reach new heights.
Heights. Sorry. Sorry, I should not correct you. We can edit all this out. Whoever's listening to this live, it's unique. That's why live shows are unique. We just can't chop and chase and chop and paste and cut.
Okay, and Huawei now presents a dish to China. China will become more isolated under the established framework. For the above reasons, if China does not take proactive measures to respond, it will encounter further containment from the US and the West. Once Putin falls, the US will no longer face two strategic competitors, but only have to lock China in strategic containment. Europe will further cut itself off from China. Japan will become the anti-China vanguard. South Korea will further fall to the US. Taiwan will join the anti-China chorus, and the rest of the world will have to choose sides under herd mentality. China will not only be militarily encircled by the US, NATO, the Quad and AUKUS, but also be challenged by Western values and systems. So he's really massaging the minds of the people in China, no?
Well, this sounds really impeccable prediction, kind of. But let's put one hesitant point. What if Trump becomes president again? How all this prediction will look?
Yeah. You made the prediction on Radio On Berlin on March the 13th. Unlucky for some. I guess. But anything can happen. But I think once bitten, twice shy. Like with if Brexit ever happened again, and dare I compare, American elections and Europe and the disunited kingdom coming out of Europe again, I think more people would have voted, because I think it was based on, like myself, thinking it's never going to happen. The UK is never going to leave the European Union. It would be a disaster. And I think with Trump as well, a lot of people thought, no, he's never going to do it. And they didn't vote. And that was the thing. And I think, once bitten, twice shy, the people won't be fooled again, I think.
Okay, but what about France? Do they have new president already or not?
Yeah, Napoleon. I think Joachim Phoenix is now going to play Napoleon the 14th or something, and he will sweep through Europe and then go into Russia. And
no, those elections are now, and both Le Pen and the other one, they are in extreme embarrassing situations, because they start to get away from we liked Putin.
From the sponsor.
So they start to they try to spin the story of how much friends they were. It's a bit like Salvini, the Italian.
Yes.
Did he even make it to being the prime minister? I don't know. Anyway, he made a rocket career in Italy, and now is one of the big influential politicians over there. And 2 years ago, he was on the Red Square wearing a white T-shirt with the face of Putin in black and white, wearing the soldier
military hat,
a military hat, and sticking up his thumb, as everybody does who makes a picture for social media. And now he was in Poland visiting a little border town, and the Polish mayor of that border town came to the press conference, and he held up the T-shirt that Salvini was wearing at that time, and holding a very short, it's a very strict sounding speech in Polish, and at the end he said to Salvini, "No respect for you."
Yeah, it was a good video.
Yeah, and then the Italians who were there, they started to shout, "Go home, you idiot! Go home, you clown! What are you doing here?" And then he went away with tail behind his legs, or between his legs. Yeah.
And on that note, let's play another CD. Another track.
Yeah.
What have you got here? That looks the same colours. The one you're passing me looks the same colours of Muslim Gauze that we just played.
But this again, Zavaloka. Let's play. Just choose any track you want from this album.
A random,
Yes.
a number. Let's. Anyone got a number out there in Radioland?
Hold on.
I hear a 3.
One moment. Because this piece is also, now I remember that long time ago I read a book by Chinese author, and he won a Nobel Prize, and I don't know his name anymore because I'm bad with names, and it was a great book. But the book also reminded me a little bit of the structure of Chinese opera. And in the beginning, the Chinese opera is all very calm. And they sing.
Rena's doing an impression of Chinese opera.
And they're going jing jing jing
We
jing jing
apologise
jing
out
jing jing. And then at the end, everyone plays together and everyone sings together, and then it finishes. It ends just in complete chaos, and maybe that's also what the Chinese way of reasoning is. So after this track, we will talk a little bit, of course, about this CD. But then we continue with the last and final part of Huwei's analysis of the situation and what could come out.
Leadership and dominance, hegemony. Yeah. Okay, the next track, Zavaloika, is track 3. What's the name on track 3 there? Because the artwork is so beautiful here.
Track 3 is called Hromovica. Okay, you've chosen the track. It's also again about this, as we played from Variat, from my album, this instrument which made in mountains from the burned tree. And this burned tree is called Hromovica.
Amazing. Okay, here we go. Zavaloka on Radio on Berlin, courtesy of our guest this evening, Dmytro Fedorenko. You were talking about America when our audience couldn't listen.
Yeah, because I was asking Rinus and maybe also was checking. I was not following the news so much outside what is going on inside of the USA, for example. Because before the war started, the polarization was, it seems like, the maximum point in this country. But I don't know what is going on there now. What Republicans are saying, Democrats are so did they came closer 1 millimeter towards each other?
Good question. Weren't they clapping together unusually like a week ago or something like that, and then they all sat down and went to their opposite sides? Or Rinus,
I didn't see it.
You were just talking about.
I'm the same as Dmitry. That all my attention is focused on Ukraine and what people outside tell about it. There's few messages that come through of what is going on in the United States, but maybe we know the next time. For our listeners, we are doing this specials with Dmitry. We know Dmitry since 2013, 2014 as Radio On, when we were in touch with him. Then when he lived in Kiev and was part of the Maidan uprising and gave us weekly reports of what was going on. And now he's living in Berlin, highly involved in say, the grassroots organizations and initiatives here in Berlin on organizing every kind of help that can be distributed to refugees here and everywhere else. Where am I going? Oh yeah, we call this radio specials Radio on Ukraine. And if you go to our website, radio-on-berlin, and just look for Radio on Ukraine.com. Yep, you will find a lot of links on how to help and how to get yourself informed. And maybe next time we know a little bit more about the situation in US in regard to Ukraine situation. Okay.
Dmytro, what surprised you about things that are happening at the moment? What sort of things have you thought you couldn't believe, as far as help is concerned and things like that?
Maybe that from the beginning and now it feels that everyone is on our side. And everyone who is anyone, everyone who is good person, who is good country, who is even surprising countries on our side. Of course, this was the most, I would say, surprising and positive about what is happening.
When you're on the demonstrations, do you speak to people when they're around, or
often conversations start? Also, I don't know, of course, how many people from each country are there, but it definitely feels that I don't know, more than half probably are not Ukrainians there, and this is also really super amazing. I see all this. I see many flags. I don't know why. I really like to see Syrian flags. I like to see flags from Georgia and from Belarus, and it feels like something incredible happening. And Ukraine pushed everything about Ukraine, this war somehow pushed the buttons in many hearts, in many minds now. On political, big level, on small level, and this is the most impressive now.
Some of the criticisms this week that I heard, and I think it probably just doesn't help, because it just it seems to divide people even more. When it's good, maybe Putin's plan to divide people, or any kind of dictator. But the war in Syria, the war in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction was one of the reasons that the UK was involved in this, and actually nothing was found in the end. And this week we heard that the Americans thought that that Putin was going to plant a red flag of chemical weapons in Ukraine, and then lo and behold, like a day later or something like that, all this starts coming out that perhaps, that's saying that, that there are weapons in. What can you say about that?
They already started to talk since a few days that they found biolabs in Ukraine, which were founded by USA. I think last time maybe we talked about it, that even COVID most probably was made in Ukraine, founded by USA. Also another myth that in these biological laboratories in Ukraine was producing bioweapons which can target special nationalities or races.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this was the one of the fresh things. Also, they're talking about this was also one of the new moments on Chernobyl nuclear power plant,
yes.
which was taken the first. I think yesterday we read that right after it was taken, Rosatom, which is a Russian nuclear power plant kind of administration, they came there immediately. And another thing besides biolaboratories, Russians are now pushing that Ukraine was and is preparing dirty nuke. So it's also the second thing is expecting. They're controlling Chernobyl power plant, and there's a lot of nuclear waste stored there. So with the rhetorics about Ukrainian preparing dirty nukes and they're controlling the nuclear waste depositories, who knows what will happen?
Yeah.
But yes, there are similarities, and of course we are thinking about Iran, Afghanistan, but now I don't know what to say in this.
Iraq, yeah.
Iraq also, Iran also today. I think today U.S. embassy was bombed.
Oh, in Iran.
I think so.
Oh,
or Iraq. I don't remember actually. No, one was shooting another, and that was already. It was just briefly. I saw it in the morning. I cannot say exactly, but there was at least I saw photos. There was some fire, and we can go in depth.
History just seems to be repeating itself so much, and also of the amount of propaganda that's around. No doubt, Putin's guys are working in some bunker somewhere, trying to draw up plans for the next idea or the propaganda. That's the thing, isn't it? It's also a war of propaganda.
They try.
Yeah, and trying to convince ordinary Russians, that this has to be done, or as Jason Oni said today, or just locking up your own population if they don't agree with you, and that's something that that mustn't be forgotten as well. That in a free state or something, you are allowed to say what you think, and this was Ukraine. Am I right in saying that?
You mean about freedom to speak whatever you want?
Yeah.
Of course, it was always like this. I don't think we ever had the situation when all TV channels would speak the same messages.
Right.
Ever, even when before Maidan, when our ex-president Yanukovych, he wanted to have it like this, but it was not possible. We always have many points of view. Before the war, we had TV channels. Hopefully now they're united and they all 24/7 transmitting news. But we always have at least 3-4 points of view happening, and it was never a problem to speak out. Also, as on symbolic level, we have the highest number of different religion confessions in Ukraine in the world. I think maybe only USA, maybe more. We have highest number of Christians, Orthodox Catholics, Greek Catholics, Protestant. We even have Mormons there.
Oh.
And we have obviously Jews and Muslims, and nobody is fighting nobody. So this is one of the moments. If you want to build your church, go ahead. Nobody will ever, and it never happened that anyone would go and tell you anything. So when it comes to feeling of freedom, I always felt it like this. That was actually one of the reasons conceptually why Maidan happened, and why it was also after all supported by some oligarchs, and in a way somehow, because Yanukovych wanted to equalize everyone. He wanted all oligarchs, all TV channels, all news, everybody speaking the same so-called truth, and nobody liked it. So it would never work. I really don't think that Ukraine is kind of capable to have to have this dictatorship style. It's we have this joke about ourselves. You know what the term hetman means? It's kind of a leader. So in Ukraine we never had a monarchy. We all our leaders since ancient times were all elected.
Oh, wow.
Since at least 400 years. And this hetman, like a leader who was elected. So we have a joke about ourselves. Where two Ukrainians meet, there are three hetmans. So it's they're always for two Ukrainians, three kings.
Oh.
When we meet, so we always have more opinions than people.
Oh, yeah. Can you briefly talk about Ukrainian humor? What is you just mentioned a joke there based on the non-monochorial. Is that right? That sounds like a butterfly.
I need to think what should come up. If it comes up, I will tell you. We have many jokes about ourselves, about practicality, and one of the recent jokes is that there are two neighbors in the village. One neighbor killed Russian soldier and another one didn't, and for him it's a tragedy, because the neighbor is better than me now.
Oh, God. War jokes.
Yes, war jokes.
But there, yeah. Of course, there's a history.
If something comes up during talk, I will.
Well, I mean, talking about that, but not even realizing Zelensky was a comedian, wasn't he? He was a bad comedian.
He was low-level comedian. I mean, he made his whatever money, anything,
anything he could do,
but working on TV and doing his movies and anything. But it was low-level jokes addressing people who don't really have much education and so on. So it's
kind of like minority jokes and things like this.
But there were many people who liked it somehow.
Sure. Okay.
Let's say anything about him before the war started. I'm not so big fan. So now he turned on his badass guy from the bad neighborhood, so to say, and it works well. But as a comedian, no.
And are there more moments of him that you thought from here is the badass? Well, because last time you said let him come here, let him sit at this table. These taxi driver moments that he had. Are there more in recent times?
No, since these 3 days I didn't see any like this. I am just happy to see him because often we see him. I think he sleeps like maybe 1 hour a day, and when I see him fresh, I'm kind of happy that they managed to put him to sleep and to wash his face a little, because he looks completely exhausted, extremely exhausted. So there were no, at least I can't remember any of this since 4 days.
And yourself, Dmytro. Last week you were saying you were sleeping 3 nights. No, not 3 nights. 3 hours a night.
We try to find a way, not to really deliberately, not to stay always on minor side of the situation, because then you can go crazy. And for instance, Zaloka and me, we have a few independent journalists who are doing their streams every day, and we like to watch them because they, in addition to showing the bad news, they also always show something to laugh about. For instance, they would show the reactions of some Instagram superstars in Russia who are crying because they don't have Instagram anymore. They cannot go to eat in McDonald's, and how they make all these videos, how they don't understand why it's going on, or some people who can make really good jokes even now about the situation, or showing Ukrainian soldiers who are talking about they talk about something which happened like an hour ago when they were fighting, and they still can manage to make jokes. This is also one of Ukrainian things. We had it since ancient times when Cossacks to go in the fight, and before this you have to humiliate as many jokes as possible to your enemy. And then this always present, and we try to find it every day, at least something positive, something funny. Even laughing at your enemy, it's always funny when you can find something. So this kind of important to balance your emotions. Otherwise you can end up in complete desperation.
On that note, let's play another track.
Let's play maybe Pansonic. You have CD.
Oh yeah. Tell us about Pansonic. because they were on your label, Kvitnu, as well, formerly known as Panasonic, but I think they were threatened by some major company that I cannot think of the name of in this particular moment. But yeah.
Well, then in the times when I was also making festivals and concerts, they were on my list of must invite. And I managed to first invited Mika Vainio. Then apparently he liked being in Ukraine. And he promised me that they will come together with Ilpo. And in 2009, they finally came, even though that Mika was heavily injured by some accident. So he had some operations, and still he managed to come, I think, 2 months after this incident. And they played an amazing set. And I prepared recording with high quality microphones with sound engineer and asked them if it's okay if I will record it. They said yes. And then it took 5 years so they can tell me that they would tell me, yeah, let's do this release. And eventually it went really well. It also helped Kvitnu to come on some sort of next level.
Yeah. And this one's a special edition of 300 copies only.
It's a second edition because the
second edition.
First one we made on vinyl, double vinyl and CD. It was sold out in 2015 already. Everything was gone, and then we would receive. I never planned to do a re-edition. I don't like to do these things. And then, but then we received so many emails asking, and the prices for vinyl went crazy, like 100-something euros for a copy. And then I asked Ilpo if he allows me to make another run of CDs and vinyls, limited edition, but then again for people who wants to have it. And he said yes, and we did it. Actually, and we did it in the first COVID year.
Yeah.
Actually, this album has interesting history because the release date we put on 18th of February originally, 2014. And it was the day when the end of Maidan was with shootings. So kind of this album was sort of baptized with fire. And then this re-edition started when we planned it, and then COVID started. So this album was kind of a hard child to do, but was really good and successful. It seems like people liked it.
And can you choose a number between 1 and 8?
Let's play last one.
8. Oh, the last track.
Yes. It was bonus track because then when they stopped performing, and then they were surprised that people were really cheering and girls brought them flowers. Then Mika was melting from it completely. I think it was the first time when he received flowers after his performance from girls. And everybody was asking them, so they played one more bonus track. So this is this bonus additional track they performed live.
Okay, so this is Panasonic. It was a live concert in Kiev, Ukraine. Okay. it's not the end of the night. That was not the close down for television stations all over the planet. That was Pan-Sonic on Dmytro's former label, Kvitnu. I'm going to say Quitnu now from now on.
Kvitnu.
Yeah, that's how you say it properly, isn't it?
Kvitnu.
I think. Quitnu.
Yeah.
Yeah, look them up. Look it up. KVITNU. Many. Everything I've heard has been incredible on this, on your former label. If you want to find out about the history, then listen to the last show that we did with Dmytro Fedorenko, now live in the studio. The war in Ukraine now, you were just talking about phosphorus.
Phosphorus bombs. That Russia used phosphorus bombs last night.
Oh.
Which is, again, one of the absolutely forbidden types of weapons.
It's against the Geneva Convention,
yes.
Am I right in saying?
Yes, and when it explodes, this white phosphorus, it burns until all phosphorus is gone. And it burns, I think it's up to 800 degrees Celsius. And it burns everything in a few hundred square meters around it. So it kind of explodes in the air. And it brings not only like people die, but also a lot of damages that people become like sick till the end of their lives, and people really suffer a lot. So it's not only about killing, but also about hurting people for the rest of their lives who were affected by these bombs. And they used it tonight.
Whereabouts was that in Ukraine?
This now I cannot say. This I cannot recall.
But
I read something like Luke or
Lutsk.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is it's also more to the west. It's also one of the cities. So when they start tonight, they move to more to the west of the country.
Okay, Renus, you were reading out.
Yeah.
Probably for our listeners that have just joined us, we have to explain a little bit.
Okay, this is an article written by Hu Wei, who is one of, the top-level intellectuals in China. Also in some influence, he has some influential positions, and this is written, which is the most interesting part of it. I think 1 week or 2 weeks before there will be a meeting between China and the US. I think they're working on that, and that should be in Rome, if I remember well, but don't take me on that. There are 4 points. I can read them all because it's all a build-up, but I can also read the fourth and last one, which is more or less the conclusion, and which is also the most the most hope can be distracted from. So what do you want? You want to hear all the points, or you want to hear the last point?
The last point.
The last point. Okay. China should prevent the outbreak of world wars and nuclear wars and make irreplaceable contributions to world peace. As Putin has explicitly requested Russia's strategic deterrent forces to enter a state of special combat readiness, the Russo-Ukrainian war may spiral out of control. A just cause attracts much support. An unjust one finds little. This might be a saying in China. This is so good. A just cause attracts much support. An unjust one finds little. If Russia instigates a world war or even a nuclear war, it will surely risk the world's turmoil. To demonstrate China's role as a responsible major power, China not only cannot stand with Putin, but also should take concrete actions to prevent Putin's possible adventures. China is the only country in the world with this capability, and it must give full play to this unique advantage. Putin's departure from China's support will most likely end the war, or at least not dare to escalate the war. As a result, China will surely win widespread international praise for maintaining world peace, which may help China prevent isolation, but also find an opportunity to improve its relations with the United States and the West. If this is going to happen, then that's also your answer to what will happen if Trump will become the president. He will be welcomed by China, and he will be a very good country, and he will be I've got some very good friends over there, and he will be very happy to continue his business with them and build a Trump Tower wherever they want to have a Trump Tower. But this is like putting a flea or putting a minor microphone, a minor loudspeaker in the delegation, the Chinese delegation, when people listen. You standing with Putin means that that we will have to face major complications, and if we turn away from Putin, we can look forward to a good coexistence with the United States. And I think they will choose for money and the most easy way, because that's China, what I understand, with Feng Shui. So everything flows in a natural way to what is the most logical way. But okay, it's not my country, it's your country.
Dmytro. But
somebody says one Russian propagandist, Solovyov, one of the heavy, hardcore Goebbels style guys, Putin friends, he said, I think last week, that he was surprised that its sanctions show that it's not about money, that companies are choosing, all these big companies and small companies are choosing to lose money on the Russian market, but they're choosing principles, and he was not expecting it. And he also didn't, and then someone else later, I don't remember who said that now sanctions, it's why many companies are moving away from Russia even when they're not told to do it, because basically it's about, are you standing on the same side with the worst asshole in the world now or not? So probably also with China will be now. It's not even black and white. It's ultra black and white.
I think
now.
we have to write a letter to the Pope, because if Putin is sacrificing himself willingly, he must be made saint immediately, because he puts credibility back into politics. He puts the heart back into the population. Everything looks very like we are going to a very happy era once the war is over.
There was actually the joke about it when there was a photo of Pope shaking hands to Putin and saying, in your case, suicide is not a sin.
Oh. All in the same box. We have a moment of pause there. We can feel it. So, Dmytro, how can people help once again? How can people support Ukraine?
You put last time this link on this Come Back Alive website.
Yeah,
it's one of the, to my point, one of the most important activities now in Ukraine. They are located in Kiev, not only there, but basically it's people who are on the front line, and they support. They support territorial defense, first of all, and they also support to evacuate people from destroyed cities now. So if you can go to this link and send any amount of money to these guys, it's not some sort of NGO, it's not some bureaucracy, big foundation. It's just few guys in the office sitting, and they're collecting money and buying the most important things every day. So it will be one thing.
So that's comebackalive.com. Is that right?
No. In UA.
Yeah, just making sure. Oh, yes. The comebackalive
in.ua.
in.ua.
Yeah. I think this is the website. I think you can look it up on the Radio On website, because you put it.
It is. It's on the front page.
It's there. So this, to my point of view, this is one of the most important things. Also, maybe if you want, we can put my email, because there's some support needed, which it's, I would say, needed much faster and more personal level. Because, for instance, I don't know, even some things we don't even put online in open source, so to say.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of sensitive information, also sensitive things which is needed to be gathered and bought. and sometimes we are discussing questions which are, well, let's say they should be discussed privately. So a lot of things needed. So this Come Back Alive, this is absolutely for sure. It's really good. Also, if I allow myself to say, if you're thinking of donating to Red Cross, please send your money to Come Back Alive. Allow me not to explain why, but just believe me, and maybe after war is over, when everything is good, I will explain you afterwards that maybe it's better to give some local initiatives money. Yes.
War is over, give peace a chance. I remember having this CD of Yoko Ono and John Lennon, and give peace a chance. Dmytro, thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you very much.
I have a small field recording that I made today at the demo. This was in front of the Brandenburger Tor, and people were singing there in front of the video screen, which, as we said earlier, was trying to protect the skies of Ukraine, because at the moment, as we can see, none of the Western powers are able to actually go in and do any of this, even though we have so many drones and satellites and all this stuff in this technological world that we live in. But in any case, we hope that these things will happen, and this seems to be what people were saying today. But so first of all, this on March 13th, 2022, this was the small sort of field recording of people singing in front of the Brandenburger Tor to support Ukraine. Thank you very much once again for coming in, Dmytro.
Thank you very much for having me.
And there will be many more episodes.
No,
well.
we don't need many more.
Okay.
Best is that this would be the last one.
Oh, it would always be the best.
And if you come back, it's like from our Berlin life.
Yes, it's true.
Okay, thank you.
weiß nicht, wie viele Stunden ich am Tag auch lese.
Ja, ich auch.
Aber hier hat sich jetzt ganz schön was angesammelt. Also ich kann dem mal relativ wenig gesagt. Ukraine! Das ist wirklich eine Sache.
Weil das wird jetzt kommen. Weil wenn
Close the sky, over Ukraine. Close the sky, over Ukraine.
ich bin aufgeregt, das ist eine Einmal
Close the sky, over Ukraine. 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 Over Ukraine! Close the sky! Over Ukraine!
Check. Oh.
You have been listening to Radio on Berlin. Yeah.